I have not seen a fake 800 number ever listed before, so I don't know what to say about that. I'm not going to call it. I'm kind of tempted to call it, but I'm not going to call it. Today we're going to be looking at a new release from TestSlate called UIGEN-T3. Now, as you may have picked up on from the name, this model is specifically designed to be very good at generating aesthetically pleasing UI designs. From the Hugging Face model card right here, we can see that we are going to be looking at the 14 billion parameter preview variant of this. They did also release a 4 billion parameter variant of the model, so perhaps that is something else I will also test following this video. But other than that, we can see right here that this is a next-gen UI model built for thoughtful design. Now, I did actually test the previous version of this, which was the T2, and it was pretty impressive, and we had some fun in some of the things we generated, so I am also hoping that the same thing happens today. If we scroll down, there are just a few examples of the types of things this model can create, which are all kind of web or UI/UX related tasks. And if we scroll down a little more, we do see a little bit of quick information about this model. It is built on the Qwen-3 architecture, which is still relatively new, so it is exciting to see more specialized models coming from that Qwen-3 architecture. It is trained on 10,000 synthetic examples with screenshots, wireframes, and UI code. It supports both components and full web pages, and this is cool because it is a hybrid reasoning model, so you can have it think or not think just by designating one of these prior to the prompt that you enter into the model. And then we see it as research non-commercial use, so definitely something that a lot of folks might not be super thrilled with, but regardless of that, I want to test this anyway because I had a lot of fun with the previous version of it. Other than that, they say please use a 20K context length to get the best results if using reasoning, which we are going to do. And these sampling parameters right here are directly corresponding to the actual sampling parameters from the Qwen-3 model, which has different sampling parameters depending on whether or not thinking or non-thinking is enabled. I do have them set to this, and we will likely just use this with thinking mode. I have the model loaded into LM Studio and it is running. This is of course the 14 billion parameter preview version at a Q8 quantization. To quickly kind of talk about the hardware that's running it, this is a laptop 5090, and we can see that with the context length for this model set to 20,000, it is currently using around 21 gigabytes of video RAM, which is relatively big. So as I said, there is also a 4 billion parameter variant of this model, so perhaps that is something to test, as that would be a much better fit for lower capacity GPUs and such. With that, I had asked it what is a GPU just to basically make sure that everything was working properly, and it actually went ahead and made an interactive way to describe and explain the concept to me. I suppose I do actually want to just take a look at what this came up with, because this is kind of an interesting and humorous response that instead of just telling me, it went ahead and actually made a website. So I suppose that's nice to see. For our first test, we will take a look at this interactive explanation of what a GPU is. Now, first and foremost, I should note that something else they mentioned here in the model card is that they don't have images in this currently due to licensing concerns. So it just basically uses something that puts placeholders for where the images would be and the actual size that the model would want them to be, so a user can supply those. And okay, what is a GPU? And we scroll down and we can see here, it has the nice little hover effects and things of that sort. We have our core GPU components, processing units, VRAM, cooling system, drivers, diverse display outputs, and high-powered connectivity. Here are some specific examples where GPUs shine. Very good. And okay, so if I click on that, it just kind of links me back to the page. Blockchain, very cool. I don't know, do people still use GPUs to mine crypto? I suppose. I don't know. I thought ASICs took over and then whatever the heck happened after that, but ready to dive deeper, learn more about GPUs. So, and again, it is tough because there are no images allowed to be used with this because of like licensing stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and do my favorite test, which is the Steve's PC Repair website. And we can see that it has begun to think, as I do believe would be the default behavior if you don't specifically tell it not to think. I will go ahead and expand this reasoning chain of thought, and it is essentially just kind of thinking, exceptional user experience for Steve's PC Repair. That's good. We now have the model generating. The chain of thought has finished, so it's going ahead and generating the code. And as this goes through, hopefully while I'm talking, because that would just make things line up better, but essentially if we see it begin to put in images, it will just go ahead and use little placeholder ones that denote the actual size of the image that it would have otherwise placed in there. That is essentially just going to allow it to give us the overall look of how the website would have looked with everything organized and aligned and scaled properly. And then the user would just go ahead and kind of replace those images with their own, and they would keep the, so as we can see right here, we see this placehold.co at 1920 by 850. So that would be the abstract tech background that you would then add in after that, and it would be in those specific dimensions. So I just figured I would mention that. Whoa. Okay, so this is, I have good things to say and I have bad things to say. First and foremost, I think that this is largely let down right now because it's not actually able to put images in because there aren't any, because of like licensing or whatever you want to call it. Because there would be an image right here which would make this look a lot better, because there's obviously text and things like that right here. 1 million plus repairs completed. Wow. 95% happy clients. Probably just not put that then if it wasn't 100. Okay, so we can see. Now, there are a few interesting things. So again, these cards right here, I would say this color choice is perhaps a bit obscure, but there are some interesting client testimonials and things like that. So this unfortunately didn't really do a fantastic job at this result. There are a few things I will say that are interesting though. This right here is the first time I've actually seen a model do X and then formerly Twitter. Every other one that I've used locally to do kind of UI or web generation tasks is calling this Twitter. Other than that, okay, we do have 2025 in the footer right there, which is good. This did do a relatively feature-packed and nicely laid out footer, aside from some funkiness and things like that right here. So to be honest with you, I think the best thing to do right here is to just go ahead and actually ask it to do this once more. All right, let's take a look. Ooh. Steve's PC repair. Interesting. So I'm not quite sure. Again, this is like where an image would likely be, but since that's not an option now, put this little circle, which is all right. We have a little computer logo next to our name, which is good. Services, about us, testimonials. All right. Our trusted PC repair specialist. Meet Steve, your local PC repair expert. And then tells me Steve working on a PC. That's good. With over a decade of hands-on experience, I'm passionate about helping individuals. All right. We can contact Steve. Let's see some more. All right, so here are the services we offer. Now, something I'm noticing is the white background. It is putting white text on that, so it's not like 100% easy to read. There are the services and things like that here. I suppose these should be in hover effects and things like that, and on cards where you should be able to click them. But we do have some customer testimonials here, which are in hover effects and things of that sort. We have a contact form. Call us directly. I have not before seen a fake number listed. Well, I have. A lot of times they'll just do like 123. I have not seen a fake 800 number ever listed before. So I don't know what to say about that. I'm not going to call it. I'm kind of tempted to call it, but I'm not going to call it. And then we have a little footer right here. Again, interesting. This shows the X icon, and every other website I've seen generated by something like this is using the old Twitter. So that is cool to see that it is definitely updated with some more modern information about social media sites and things of that sort. So aside from that, we just kind of have our simple footer, but at least it is laid out properly in terms of where it would be on the page and things of that sort. All right, so I asked it to make a website for Johnny's Bitcoin duplicator. And I spelled duplicator wrong. That's all right. I said it needs to have Vegas casino vibes to it. Fortunately, it did understand Vegas casino vibe, which is good. Obviously, the model that underlies this should have some general world knowledge enough to at least know what a casino vibe is or what it would entail. So it is now just going ahead and actually generating the website right here. I also noticed that sometimes it doesn't actually think prior to the response being generated. Of course, you can use the specific tags that will instruct it to either think or not think, but I kind of like to let it just do what it wants. The only downside to that, I will say, is that UIGEN-T3 has different sampling parameters depending on whether or not it is going to be in thinking or non-thinking mode. So these sampling parameters, when it doesn't think, are perhaps slightly off because I have them set to what they should be in thinking mode. I don't know how much of a difference that would make, but it is something to kind of go ahead and just mention. It is, of course, generating the website right here. And you can see that it is denoting that the image I should personally go in and place into the website would be casino chips flying. So that is really funny. And again, not being able to have images here really lets this down, at least in terms of my style of testing, because it is kind of harder to visually show something that leaves a lot to interpretation as opposed to just putting a static image. All right, let's take a look. Oh God. So, okay, again, the placeholder images there. So that basically what it would have done is if I'd replaced the images with real images, it would be kind of showing them in and out. I suppose that is somewhat of a casino vibe where it's like, just it would be spamming the images. That is, I suppose, casino style, because you constantly want to keep their attention going with bright lights and flashy things. Simple steps to wealth. Deposit your stake. Securely fund your account with Bitcoin. We use top tier security protocols, which trigger the duplicator. Watch your coins grow. And it did use little like icons here, which is good. Why choose Johnny's? We offer the fastest and most profitable. I can't speak. We offer the fastest and most profitable way to grow your crypto portfolio. This is very good. Ironclad security, real-time analytics, rapid withdrawals. Honestly, this is well done. This chart here is something I have not seen generated in a local model website generation test before. So this is really quite interesting. The Bitcoin balance over time with Johnny's Bitcoin duplicator, of course, goes up from an average of probably around, oh, it even tells me the specific number for each one of these points in the graph. That is quite good. So by day 2, you'll have 0.12 BTC. And then if we just jump on over to a week, you'll have 1.5, which is really fantastic. And then if we scroll down, logo. And again, I wish this had images, because their images would be flashing in and out and things like that. So we do have some fake things, fake kind of like customer testimonial, if you will. It's a game changer. I've seen my Bitcoin holdings grow beyond what I ever imagined. Thanks, Alex P. Security is top notch. I like how it really specifically like focused on how secure this is. And that's, again, a Bitcoin Vegas. Okay. That is like a decision the model made by itself. I didn't instruct it on what to specifically put on this website. So join the elite few who are already making fortunes. Start your journey today. You can connect with Johnny if you'd like. There is a question form. Now, this is interesting because this form is a slightly different shade of blue than the background, or it just has a drop shadow around it and it is the same shade of blue. I don't know, either way. And then we could send the message. Copyright 2024, Johnny's Bitcoin duplicator, all rights reserved. This right here is actually quite good, and this is not something I've seen before, where it generated a graph in the website. That is quite quite good. So basically, I've asked it to design a fake investment portfolio page that will make my date think I'm loaded. So I am kind of interested to see what it does here. All right, let's see. Oh, damn. I've noticed it does this. I wonder, maybe this is something to do with dark mode. I don't think it does, because I look at this and this actually looks like it would have been quite impressive if the actual text and background did not clash very badly. So I'm basically just asking it to go ahead and fix the issue. It kind of seemed to ignore the actual information I gave it in addition to said issue, but I suppose that's a secondary to whether or not it fixes it. Fingers crossed. All right, not bad. Not as, I mean, it's still kind of hard to see. Actually, to be honest with you though, it's not bad. I was kind of hoping for more something kind of in line with this example right here, but I do suppose that this is definitely a vast improvement over this, and it did properly kind of just fix the main issue I complained about, which was the dark text on dark background. Here's my investment journey. We have current holdings, a performance overview, portfolio performance over the last 5 years, and again, this is where this model seems to very much excel, is actually just making specific pieces of websites, such as this actual interactive chart right here, which does give us a net worth of somewhere around $34 million in order to impress our date with, which I suppose is good. Interesting that this nav bar actually scrolls down and gets somewhat opaque. That is actually a nice attention to detail and touch right there. Asset allocations. My primary focus on growth and long-term value. National health services. Isn't the NHS like nationalized healthcare in the UK? I don't know why someone would have. All right. Aside from that, if we have fixed income, real estate investments, very good. 7% year over year. Private equity and hedge funds, very good. Wow. So I am just denoting it to think here, and I'm asking it to go ahead and make a Twitter clone. And basically the reason I'm asking this is because this is similar to some of the example prompts they have listed here. And of course, I just kind of forced it to think. So hopefully we get a proper result here. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this, which I do believe it named Chirp just by... Okay, that's really, that's very good. And this is so much better than some of the other sample things I've seen that maybe I don't know what to make of that, but it's definitely specifically good at doing certain things. And this is totally one of them. I mean, this is quite well done. Obviously, these are not actually linked to anything, as this is not making the actual full web app. It just kind of makes the interface. Okay, we have what's happening. We have this, which is actually interesting. So look, when you hover over one of these, I suppose, chirps, it has colors on the different things. So like a comment, I wonder if it, okay, it just wrote retweet. It didn't even write like rechirp. So, okay, it definitely was just like, yeah, screw it. We have likes and then whatever this, the share button, excuse me. This obviously Bob the Builder, amazing view. And then you have like a bunch of like kind of typical like millennial trash tweets, like amazing yoga session. So this did a rather good job at this. Who to follow, show more awe. Eve Adams, sounds okay. We have things trending. AI revolution is trending with 25.4 thousand chirps. And then game night. This is quite well done. And I do wonder, this just makes me want to test it now more, but just basically having it make like replicas of other popular websites. All right, so that is probably going to conclude this test. I think based on what I see here, the model has definite strengths. However, those are more in a very specific and niche way. I find that in comparison to the T2 version, which was the previous version trained off of Qwen 2.57b coder, this doesn't seem to generalize as well as what I noticed with that, meaning like for a Steve's PC repair generic test, it's not as pretty. However, the strength that I really notice right here is in things like this. I have not actually really seen any other local models that can do charts like this did, especially with the kind of Bitcoin chart. So if we go ahead and take a look at that once more, obviously not being able to have photos and things like that kind of hurts this, but that's no fault of the actual model itself. It's a licensing thing apparently, but this was very, very impressive. This chart right here on the Bitcoin duplicator website, and it did a nice black and gold theme. I would say this was perhaps one of the winners here, but to go back to my original point, this seems very good at making a specific set of types of things, which a lot of these would kind of go in line with startup activities and websites you'd want to put up. Now, obviously, they do say that this was trained on 10,000 synthetic examples. I do believe the T2 was trained on, I think, 50,000. So that could also play into that. And again, this was very impressive right here, the kind of chirp tweeting website. This was definitely one of the winners here and very impressive. Overall, I am very interested in seeing this model kind of perhaps scale up based off of the training data becoming more expanded like the previous version. And I also am very interested in testing the 4 billion parameter variant of this model, especially at a Q8, because that could run on some pretty resource constrained devices and may do some very interesting results. So that's going to wrap this video up. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments.